My sister framed my 11-year-old son for stealing $13,000. My dad believed her and threatened to disown me. So, I brought receipts and ended a lifetime of favoritism in one night. Hey Reddit, not really sure where to start, but let's just say my family pushed me way too far this time. What began as a simple Sunday dinner turned into one of the worst accusations a parent could ever face. And I wasn't about to let it slide. I'm not here for pity, I just need to get this all out somewhere. So buckle up because it got messy fast. I'm Jason, 34, a cardiologist, and a single dad to an 11-year-old boy named Eli. My job deals with blocked arteries and heart failures, which ironically isn't all that different from dealing with my family. They've always had blockages too, just emotional ones. My sister Manurva is what I call the untouchable. She could crash a car into a bank, and my dad would still call it a misunderstanding. She's loud, pampered, and walks around like she's the main character in a show no one else even auditioned for. Dad's a control freak who thinks being loud automatically makes him right. Mom's whole personality is let's keep the peace, and which really means let's never hold Manurva accountable. Sunday dinner was their thing, some weird family ritual where everyone pretends everything's fine. I stopped going for a while, but Eli likes family, so I gave it another shot. That's how we ended up driving to Manurva's oversized suburban house, the one that looks like Pinterest threw up all over it. She opened the door with her trademark fake surprise. "Jason, you made it," she said, like I'd just flown in from another planet instead of driving across town. Her husband, Eric, appeared behind her with the same half-hearted handshake he always gave me, the kind that says, "I'm trapped but trying to survive this marriage." Inside, everything smelled like lemon cleaner and forced perfection. A giant family photo wall showed Manurva, Eric, and their daughter Courtney in matching sweaters. Eli stood beside me, hands shoved in his hoodie pockets, just taking it all in. "Uncle Jason." Courtney squealed, running up. "Guess what? Mommy says we're going to Disney again." Of course they were. Manurva can't survive without turning her vacations into brag material. At dinner, she dominated the conversation, as usual. Dad sat at the head of the table like a judge tapping his fingers. Mom smiled too much, that nervous smile she does when she knows Dad's about to explode. Halfway through dessert, Dad cleared his throat. "Before anyone leaves," he said, "we need to talk about something serious." The room went dead silent. Manurva straightened up like she already knew the script. Dad turned to me. $13,000 is missing from the safe," he said flatly, "and I need it returned." For a second, I thought he was joking. "What?" I asked. Manurva leaned forward. "Courtney saw Eli near the closet last week. Right, sweetie?" Courtney froze, eyes wide, then slowly nodded. Clearly rehearsed. My heart rate didn't even spike. Years in an operating room teach you how to stay steady under pressure. But Eli's face went pale. "Dad," I said calmly, "that's a serious accusation." "I'm aware," he said, crossing his arms. "You raised that boy. You tell me why my money disappeared." Eli whispered, "I didn't take anything." "I know," I said, putting a hand on his shoulder. Then I looked back at Dad. "You got any proof? Cameras, receipts, or are we going off Manurva's word again?" Manurva gasped like I'd just slapped her. "Are you calling me a liar?" "I'm saying your track record speaks for itself," I replied evenly. "Last time, the emergency money disappeared for your car deposit. Remember?" Her eyes narrowed. "That was different." "Right," I said. "Different safe. Same story." Mom jumped in, voice soft. "Jason, please." "We don't need this tone." "Tone?" I said, keeping my voice level. "You just accused my 11-year-old of grand theft." "You don't get to talk about tone." Dad's jaw tightened. "We're family. We can settle this without hostility. Family doesn't accuse a kid of stealing $13,000 without a single fact to back it up," I said. Eric finally mumbled, "Maybe we should just let this cool off." Dad cut him off. "No, this needs to be resolved. Either the money's returned, or you're getting officially disowned." Eli's breathing picked up. I turned to him. "Go wait by the door, bud." He hesitated, then did as told. Then I stood there, calm as ever. "You're kicking us out until I pay for something my son didn't take?" Dad said nothing. Manurva crossed her arms like she'd just won a prize. I stepped closer to the table. "Let's walk through this logically, since none of you seem to grasp that concept. Eli doesn't have access to your room. He doesn't know your safe code. He's never been left alone here. You have 3 adults in this house, 1 kid who likes attention, and 1 missing envelope. You really want to tell me that adds up to my son? No one answered. The silence was louder than shouting. Mom's lips trembled. Jason, please just bring it back and we'll forget it. I smiled, not kindly, just tired. Forget it? You accuse my son, humiliate him, and now you want me to pretend it's fine? Dad's face turned red. Watch yourself, boy. Don't call me boy, I said quietly. I'm not 13 anymore. And this time I'm not playing referee for your golden child. Manurva opened her mouth again. Courtney! I cut her off. Courtney's a kid repeating what you told her to say. Her face cracked instantly. She looked at Eric for backup, but he just looked away, shoulders tense, eyes down. I grabbed my coat, turned toward them, and said clearly, if you're looking for a thief, check the mirror before you check my kid. The line hit like a clean cut in surgery, precise, final. I didn't wait for a response. Eli followed me out without saying a word. The door shut behind us, and for the first time in years, I didn't feel like the quiet one in the family. I felt like the only adult in the room. Eli didn't talk the whole drive home. He just sat there, staring out the window, his reflection flickering in and out with every passing streetlight. When we got home, he went straight to his room without even kicking his shoes off. The next morning, I dropped him off at school like usual. He gave me that little nod he always does before closing the door. No words, just quiet trust. I went to the hospital for morning rounds, trying to focus on actual hearts, instead of the figurative ones my family seemed determined to poison. Around noon, my phone buzzed. Eli's teacher, Dr. Jefferson, she said carefully, there's something I need to mention. There's a rumor going around the school about Eli. I stepped into an empty hallway. What kind of rumor? She hesitated. That he stole money from his grandfather. Some of the kids said Courtney told them. For a second, I didn't say anything. Just breathed. Thank you for letting me know, I said finally. I'll handle it. When I picked Eli up that afternoon, he looked smaller than usual. They were whispering, he said softly. Courtney told everyone I stole. Even my friends looked at me weird. My stomach clenched, but I kept my voice steady. People talk when they don't know facts. You let me worry about the facts. He nodded slowly, trying to act brave. That night, I was halfway through updating patient notes when my phone lit up again. Sarah, my ex-wife. The moment I answered, her voice came in sharp. What is going on, Jason? I just got a call from another parent saying Eli's being accused of stealing from your dad. I'm aware, I said. You're aware? She snapped. You're a doctor, for God's sake. How does this even happen? Why is our son dragged into your family's chaos again? Because my family has a talent for creating it, I said, keeping my tone calm. She wasn't having it. Fix it, Jason. I don't want Eli's name attached to this nonsense. If I hear one more rumor, I'll talk to my lawyer. And the line went dead. I set the phone down and leaned back, staring at the ceiling. It wasn't just a family argument anymore. This lie was bleeding into Eli's life, into his school, into everything I'd worked to protect. By morning, the texts started coming in. Manurva. You need to make Eli confess so we can move on. This is getting embarrassing. I replied, you should have thought of that before making things up. Dad's not sleeping. He's sick over this. Just have Eli apologize and return the money. We'll keep it private. You're not asking for an apology, I typed. You're asking for a false confession. Big difference. No reply after that. Then came the group chat Mom had started. Jason, can you please be reasonable? Dad stressed. Manurva's crying. This isn't good for anyone. And then Dad's message popped up. Either the money comes back or you stay out of this family. Simple. Simple. That was always his favorite word. Simple meant my way. That evening, Eli sat at the kitchen table doing homework, but I could tell he wasn't really focused. Mom called, he said quietly. She said people are saying stuff online now. Yeah, I said. They will for a while. Did Grandpa really think I did it? He doesn't think, I said flatly. He reacts. He fiddled with his pencil. You're not mad at me? Mad at you? No, I'm mad at everyone else. He gave a small smile but didn't look up. After he went to bed, I sat in the dark living room scrolling through my phone. The number kept echoing in my head, $13,000. It sounded like Dad, neat, round, tidy. But the timing didn't add up. I pulled out an old notepad and started scribbling. If you've spent your life diagnosing chest pain, you learn to spot patterns. And something about that number felt deliberate, calculated. Someone picked it. That meant this wasn't random. It was planned. The next day at work, I found myself reading patient charts but seeing my family's names instead. I caught myself checking my watch more than once, counting down the hours until I could start connecting the dots properly. At lunch, another text buzzed through. This one wasn't from Mom or Manurva. It was from Dad. "You've got till Friday to make this right. Don't test me." That was all he wrote. No greeting, no signature. I typed back, "You're threatening the wrong person, Dad." Then I deleted it before sending. No point arguing with a man who thought volume was evidence. That night, Eli asked, "Are we going to Sunday dinner again?" "No," I said. He nodded, relieved. You handle a failing heart the same way you handle a failing family. You slow down, assess, and cut precisely where it matters. I looked at the notepad again. The numbers circled, underlined. The lie was too specific. The pattern too clean. They didn't pick Eli because they thought he stole. They picked him because he was mine. Easy to blame, easy to dismiss. That's when I decided, no more explaining, no more defending. I'd fix this the same way I fix every cardiac emergency, precision, not panic. I woke up early the next morning with that line replaying in my head. The house was quiet except for the soft sound of Eli's breathing down the hall. I sat at the kitchen table with my laptop, a notebook, and a cup of black coffee going cold beside me. Step 1 in any operation, identify the blockage. In this case, it wasn't an artery. It was the truth. I started with my dad's bank. I still remembered the name of the credit union. I'd helped him set up his online access years ago, back when he didn't understand two-factor authentication. I logged in using the shared credentials he'd once given me in case of emergency. And if being accused of raising a thief didn't count as an emergency, nothing did. The last deposit was exactly $10,000, nothing since. But the withdrawals, those told the real story. 3 large cash withdrawals in the past 4 months, July 3rd, August 19th, and September 29th. Each withdrawal spaced like clockwork, every 4 to 6 weeks. I scribbled the dates in my notebook. That wasn't random spending. It was planned. Then I cross-referenced those dates with something I remembered from months ago. Manurva bragging about her big girl purchase. She'd sent me photos of her new car, wrapped with a big red bow, captioned, "Finally treating myself." I searched my email for Manurva car lease. Found it. June 22nd. She'd sent me a copy of her financing agreement asking, "Does this look smart or am I overthinking it?" I told her she was fine. Like an idiot. The down payment listed $12,000 paid in cash. I circled that number. Then I looked back at my notes. July 3rd, first withdrawal from Dad's credit union, $10,000 cash that later ended up in the safe. A coincidence? Maybe. But then came August 19th, another withdrawal. I opened her Venmo profile. Manurva's account wasn't private. Of course it wasn't. She loved showing off. The last 6 months were filled with little notes like bridge fund, car fund, just in case. All tied to odd cash amounts that matched the safe's withdrawal dates within just a few days. If she was going to steal, she might as well have left fingerprints. Around 10, Eli shuffled out of his room in his pajamas. "You're up early," he said. "Couldn't sleep," I told him, scanning another PDF, still doing some research. He sat beside me, eyes on the screen. "Are you trying to prove it wasn't me?" "I'm proving who it really was," I said. He leaned forward, resting his chin on his arm. "Want help?" I smiled slightly. "You got any security footage of Aunt Manurva confessing on camera?" He laughed. "No," he said, but then his face changed. He frowned suddenly, then jumped up and ran to his room. I heard drawers opening, the sound of his tablet unlocking. "Wait!" he called out. A minute later, he came running back, holding it. "Remember when I was at Courtney's for that playdate? We were making videos for that dumb scavenger hunt app. I still have them." He started scrolling fast, his thumb swiping across the screen. "Here, this one." He hit play. The camera was shaky, aimed at a hallway. Courtney's voice giggled off-screen. "Mom, we're doing a Clue video!" And then, Manurva's voice answered clear as day. "Hold on, sweetie. Mommy's just grabbing something from Grandpa's closet." The camera tilted, catching a blur of her arm. And in her hand, a white envelope labeled in Dad's handwriting, "Emergency." The timestamp read September 29th. I stared at the screen, my jaw tightening. "You're kidding." Eli looked nervous. "Is that bad?" "It's perfect," I said quietly. "That's the missing piece." I transferred the video to my laptop, backed it up twice, and saved screenshots of the frame showing the envelope. Chain of evidence. Learned that from dealing with malpractice lawyers. You always document everything, no matter how obvious it seems. By noon, my living room looked like a miniature crime lab. Papers spread out in neat rows, sticky notes marking connections. The July withdrawal matched her car down payment. The August one matched a Venmo transfer labeled car fund. The September one matched the video Eli found. I opened Dad's messages from the family group chat and scrolled up. He'd mentioned the missing money for the first time on October 3rd, just 4 days after that last withdrawal. The timing was too clean to be coincidence. It wasn't just that Manurva had taken the money. She'd panicked when she realized Dad was about to notice. And she needed someone to take the hit. And who better than my kid, the quiet one, the easy scapegoat? I printed everything. Bank statements, screenshots, timestamps, her car lease, even the still frame from the video. Then I organized them into folders labeled like case files. Withdrawal logs, Manurva transactions, photo and video evidence, family messages. I'd spent years cleaning up their messes. But this time, they tried to stain my son's name. That was the last mistake they'd ever make with me. Eli sat on the couch watching me print another document. "You look serious," he said. "I am serious," I replied. "We're not just defending ourselves anymore. We're correcting the record." He nodded slowly. "Like surgery?" "Exactly like surgery," I said. "You find the blockage, isolate it, and remove it cleanly." By the time I was done, the folders were stacked neatly in a box on the table. Each one labeled in bold marker. No emotion, no yelling, no drama, just evidence. Facts don't need volume. I stood there for a moment, just staring at everything. Years of quiet patience, now organized into physical proof that the golden child was the one corroding the family from the inside out. I closed the last folder, slid it into the box, and muttered under my breath, they wanted proof. Let's give them something they can't talk over. That line stuck in my head like a countdown. I didn't rush it. I waited because I knew Manurva couldn't resist trying to control the narrative. 2 days later, the text came in. "We're having a family meeting Wednesday night, 7 p.m., just us. Let's handle this privately before things go too far. Privately. That word always meant one thing. Let's pretend this didn't happen and make Jason the villain again." I replied with one word. "Sure, privately?" That word always meant one thing. Let's pretend this didn't happen and make Jason the villain again. I replied with just one word. Sure. Wednesday came fast. I left the hospital early, changed into a clean shirt, and picked up Eli from his chess club. "You're not coming to this one," I told him. "I'll handle it." He just nodded. "Be calm," he said. I smiled faintly. Always am. When I pulled into my parents' driveway, the usual symbols of dysfunction were already there. Dad's truck, Mom's SUV, and Manurva's shiny car parked diagonally, like the world revolved around her. The porch light was on, even though it was still bright outside. Performative, as always. I grabbed the banker's box from the passenger seat and walked in. They were all sitting in the living room like some kind of tribunal. Manurva on the couch, legs crossed, pretending to be calm. Eric beside her, staring at the carpet. Mom clutching tissues. Dad in his recliner. That same authority stance he'd used since I was 10. "Glad you could make it," Manurva said sweetly. "Let's talk like adults this time." "Sure," I said, setting the box on the coffee table. "That's why I brought the paperwork." Dad frowned. "What paperwork?" "The kind that speaks louder than rumors," I said. The room shifted, subtle, tense. Manurva laughed nervously. "Oh my God, Jason, you're so dramatic." I ignored her. "I'm going to walk through some things. Don't interrupt." Dad started to say something, but I raised a hand. Calm, controlled. "Just listen." I pulled out the first folder. "Here's a record of the last 3 withdrawals from your credit union account, Dad. July 3rd, August 19th, and September 29th. Each one was logged as cash, and you even signed the receipts. Within 48 hours of each withdrawal, Manurva's public Venmo showed outgoing payments labeled car fund, bridge fund, and car stuff, all for almost the exact same amounts." Manurva's mouth twitched. "That's absurd." I slid a printed screenshot across the table. "Venmo notes, car fund, bridge loan, car stuff." "Your words, not mine." Eric's head snapped up. Manurva tried to laugh it off. "You're twisting things, and those were inside jokes." "Then this one's hilarious," I said, pulling another document from a folder. "Your car lease agreement, June 22nd. You sent me this yourself." Down payment, $12,000 paid in cash. You drained your own savings for that down payment. Then, a week later, Dad pulled $10,000 from his credit union, the same cash that ended up in the safe. That's when it started shrinking. You covered your hole with his money. Eric turned toward her slowly. You told me your bonus covered that. She didn't answer. Mom's voice cracked. Jason, this is unnecessary. No, I said, still steady. It's overdue. I placed the next sheet down. Now about September and the final withdrawal. The one you all decided Eli stole. Manurva shook her head. You have no idea what you're implying. Actually, I said, reaching into the box, I do. I turned my laptop toward them and hit play. The room filled with the shaky video clip, Courtney's giggling voice off screen, and then Manurva's voice clear as day. Hold on, sweetie. Mommy's just grabbing something from Grandpa's closet. The frame showed her hand holding the envelope labeled emergency. The silence that followed could have stopped a heartbeat. Manurva stood up suddenly, her face pale. That's fake. Eric barked a bitter laugh. Fake, that's your voice. That's you. Eric, stop. She snapped. No, I'm done stopping, he said, standing up. I covered for you long enough. I told you this family eats itself, and you jumped right in with a fork. He walked out, the door slamming hard enough to shake the wall. Mom gasped, hands over her mouth. Dad's jaw clenched. You don't bring recordings into this house, boy, he growled. You think you're clever, but you're trying to humiliate us. I looked him dead in the eye. The truth doesn't care how loud you talk, Dad. He pointed a finger at me. You manipulated this? Manipulated what? I said, cutting him off. Dates? Bank records? Your own signature? He started to rise, but Mom pulled him back down. She was crying now, whispering his name. Manurva stood frozen, her confidence gone. I didn't mean for it to go this far, she said quietly. You thought I'd roll over? I said. You thought I'd apologize for something my kid didn't do, because that's what I've always done. I leaned in slightly. You miscalculated. Her lip trembled. Jason, please! No, I said sharply. This isn't a conversation anymore. It's a record. I stacked the folders neatly, tapping the top of the box. From now on, every time someone touches that safe, you'll log it. Date, amount, signature. Treat it like a hospital chart. If you can't handle that, then maybe stop keeping secrets in a metal box. Dad's voice was low, cold. You think you can lecture me in my own house? I looked around the room, at all of them. The same people who'd accused my son, humiliated him, and hid behind the word family. I'm not lecturing, I said quietly. I'm warning you. If you ever accuse Eli again, this stops being a family matter. It becomes legal, police, lawyers, statements. You want that? Because I'm more than prepared. No one said a word. I closed the box, picked it up, and turned toward the door. The carpet muffled my steps. When I reached the entryway, I heard Mom whisper my name, but I didn't look back. Outside, the air was cold and quiet, clean, like something had finally been cut open and drained. As I walked to the car, I thought about Eli's face that night at dinner, the way his hands had trembled when they called him a thief. Not anymore. They'd wanted to make me look small. Instead, I just made their entire story collapse under the weight of their own lies. 2 days passed. Silence. Not a single call, not a single text. It was almost peaceful, like the quiet after a long surgery, when the monitors stop screaming and you finally hear your own breathing again. Eli noticed it too. They're really not going to say anything? He asked one morning while we packed his lunch. Guilt needs time to find a voice, I told him. It'll come. But it came on the 3rd day. Mom sent a text, and Jason, please. You're tearing this family apart. Your sister's marriage is in ruins. Your father hasn't eaten properly since that night. I read it twice, then set the phone down. Classic emotional gymnastics. Skip the part where they accused a child, jump straight to how I ruined everything. By afternoon, Dad joined in. You need to come talk like an adult. You embarrassed your sister in front of her husband. This could have been solved privately. Privately. The same word they'd always used to keep things quiet for Manurva her whole life. That night, as I was finishing up paperwork at home, my phone buzzed again. Of course, it was Manurva. I don't even know who you are anymore. You didn't have to humiliate me. You think you're some kind of hero? 10 minutes later, I'm sorry. I didn't mean for it to get that far. You just don't understand how much pressure I'm under. Then another. Forget it. You're cold. You've always been cold. It was like watching a pendulum swing between guilt and fury. I muted the chat. The next morning at work, my office manager poked her head in. "Hey, there's someone from CPS asking to confirm your address. Something about a report involving your son." The world went still for half a second. "What?" She handed me the card. "Child Protective Services. Routine inquiry." I called immediately. The woman on the line sounded bored, like she'd already done this 100 times today. "Just verifying a report about possible emotional neglect. Nothing serious. We just need to check off some boxes." "Who filed it?" I asked. "I'm not allowed to say, sir." "Of course not." But I didn't need her to. Only one person in my family was desperate enough to weaponize bureaucracy. I answered every question politely, cooperated, and by the end of the week, the case was closed. "No follow-up necessary," the woman said. Still, when I hung up, my hands were shaking, not from fear, but from disgust. That night, I sat at the kitchen table across from Eli. He was working on a puzzle, the quiet kind that fills a room with calm. I waited until he finished a corner before speaking.
"If anyone ever asks you questions about home," I said, "just answer honestly."
"Okay," he looked up confused. "Why would they ask?" "They won't again," I said. "But I want you to know, we don't hide. Not anymore." He nodded, eyes steady. "Okay." The next day, I called my lawyer friend from high school. Explained everything, the false accusation, the video proof, the CPS stunt. He didn't sound surprised. "Document everything," he said. "Every text, every call, every visit. When people lose control, they reach for whatever weapon they think will make you flinch." I didn't flinch. I archived the messages, saved them in a separate folder. Then I started cleaning house. First, I removed them from Eli's emergency contact list at school. Then, I deleted them from the hospital's family access forms. Finally, I took my mom's spare house key out of the drawer and tossed it into the trash. By Friday, the silence was back. But this time, it felt earned. Eli noticed the difference before I did. "You're not checking your phone every 5 minutes anymore," he said. "Yeah," I replied, sipping my coffee. "Feels good, doesn't it?" He nodded. "It's quiet." Quiet became our new rhythm. About 2 weeks in, Mom sent one last message. "You can't just erase us, Jason. Family is forever." I stared at it for a minute, then typed back, "Family doesn't accuse children and call it love. Forever doesn't mean endless damage." Then I blocked her too. After that, the quiet became real. Not the fake silence between arguments, but the kind that fills your lungs like fresh air after being underwater too long. I started sleeping through the night again. I stopped replaying their words in my head like background noise. Work felt lighter. Even my patients noticed. One of them said, "You seem calmer lately, Doc." "Yeah," I said. "Cut out some bad habits." He laughed, not knowing how true it was. For the first time in years, the silence didn't feel like something missing. It felt like something finally fixed. For weeks, peace had a routine. Eli and I had our quiet life. No drama, no unexpected calls, just normal days that didn't demand explanations. Then one Thursday evening, the peace broke in the smallest way possible. A knock on the door. It wasn't angry or loud, just soft, hesitant. I opened it, and there she was, Manurva. Hair messy, eyes swollen, holding a grocery bag like a white flag. She looked nothing like the polished sister who used to brag about bonuses and vacations. "Can I come in?" she asked, voice small. I leaned against the doorway. "Depends. You here to accuse my kid again or to confess?" She flinched. "I deserve that," she said quietly. Eli peeked around the hallway corner, then disappeared back into his room. I stepped aside. "You've got 5 minutes." She walked in slow, like every step hurt. The bag in her hands trembled. She set it on the counter. "I brought muffins," she said. "You can put those next to the list of things I didn't ask for," I said. Her shoulders sagged. For the first time, she didn't fight back. "Eric left," she said. "He took the guest room TV and most of the furniture. Said he was tired of living in a house full of lies. He's also trying to get custody of Courtney." I didn't respond. "They took the car last week," she added, her voice breaking. "I missed too many payments. My boss cut my hours after the..." She stopped. "After the situation?" I asked. "After accusing a child?" She nodded, eyes glistening. "Yeah, that..." She sank into a chair. "I messed up everything, Jason. I don't even know how to explain it. I panicked about the money. And when Dad started counting again, I pointed at Eli's room. "You pointed at my kid." Because you knew I'd fix it. There it was. The truth in its ugliest, smallest form. You used my kid, I said flatly. Her hands twisted in her lap. I know I did. I thought it would blow over. I thought you'd smooth it out like always, but then you didn't. And I lost everything, she whispered. You didn't lose everything, I said. You lost control. There's a difference. She looked up at me, tears streaking her face. I'm sorry, Jason. I'm sorry for lying. I'm sorry for dragging Eli into it. I don't even know who I am anymore. I folded my arms. You're someone who needs to start cleaning up her own mess, I said. And not quietly this time. She frowned. What do you mean? You didn't whisper the lie, I said. You spread it. You let it bleed into schools, family chats, even my ex-wife's phone. You dragged my kid's name through the mud.
So you're going to clean it up in public, too?
Her eyes widened. Publicly? Publicly, I repeated. You'll post a full apology. Tag the family. Tag me if you want. I don't care about saving your pride. I care about my son's name. Her lips trembled. Jason, please. That's embarrassing. Good, I cut in. You embarrassed an 11-year-old. Time to share the feeling. She stared at me for a long moment, then nodded slowly. Okay, I'll do it. I could tell it wasn't easy for her. The Manurva I grew up with thrived on image, but this version of her, broken, cornered, looked ready to finally face it. Before that, I said, you'll apologize to Eli in person. Her throat tightened. Does he even want to see me? He doesn't need to want to, I said. He deserves to. I called Eli out from his room. He came out hesitantly, arms crossed. Manurva stood up, wiped her face, and tried to smile. Hey, kiddo, she said softly. I don't deserve for you to even look at me. What I did was wrong. I lied because I was scared, and I used your name because I thought your dad would fix it like he always does. But that was cruel. It wasn't your fault. None of it was. I'm sorry. Eli didn't say anything for a few seconds. He just looked at her, calm but older than his years. Okay, he said finally. It wasn't forgiveness. It was acknowledgement, like he was saying, I heard you, but it doesn't change who I am now. Manurva wiped her eyes again. You're a good kid, she whispered. Eli shrugged. I know. Then he turned and walked back to his room. I turned to her. You're doing that post tomorrow. No soft wording, no excuses, straight truth. She nodded quickly. I will. After she left, Eli came back out. Is she really going to post it? She will, I said. She doesn't have a choice anymore. He sat beside me on the couch, thoughtful. You think people will believe her? Doesn't matter, I said. They'll see it. That's enough. The next morning, I woke up to the first notification. Manurva had posted a long paragraph. No filters, no emojis, no fake grace. She wrote about taking money, lying to cover it, and blaming an innocent kid because she thought no one would question her. She named Eli directly, said he was kind, honest, and didn't deserve any of it. Comments started pouring in, some shocked, some angry, some supportive. By noon, the post had spread through the family chat. Screenshots flying around like wildfire. For the first time in years, the narrative wasn't theirs to twist. Eli scrolled through the post once, then locked my phone and handed it back. Guess it's done, he said. Almost, I replied. One more step left, watching how they react when the truth finally sticks. It didn't take long. By that afternoon, Manurva's apology post had spread like wildfire. Her account had always been a highlight reel, filtered smiles, polished captions, the usual suburban performance. But this post was different. No emojis, no hashtags, no soft lighting, just a wall of text. I owe a public apology to my brother Jason Jefferson and his son Eli. I accused Eli of something he didn't do. I lied to protect myself after taking money from our father's safe. Jason showed restraint and grace when I didn't deserve it. Eli is innocent, and I'm sorry for the damage I caused. Then came the part that hit harder. My family believed me because I've always been loud, and Jason's always been quiet. That silence doesn't mean guilt. It means strength. I was wrong. It was raw. Too raw for someone like Manurva. Within an hour, her comments were full of shock and disbelief. Old family friends left paragraphs like, I can't believe this happened. Eli didn't deserve that. A few coworkers chimed in with things like, takes guts to admit it publicly. But the real wave came from our extended family. Cousins, uncles, aunts, people who hadn't called me in years. suddenly crawling out to apologize. I didn't reply to any of them. They weren't talking to clear their conscience. They were talking to protect their image now that the tide had turned. The biggest surprise was Dad. No call, no text. Just a photo message that came in that evening. It was his hand resting on a brand new safe, the kind with a keypad and a fingerprint scanner. On top of it, a clipboard with a printed log sheet, name, date, amount, signature. Underneath the photo, his message was simple. Satisfied? I stared at the photo for a long minute before typing back, "Finally, you're doing something right." No reply came. None was needed. For him, that was as close to "you were right" as I'd ever get. A day later, Mom asked to meet. She picked the little diner where Eli and I always went for breakfast. When I walked in, she was already there. "Jason," she said softly as I sat down, "you look tired." "I sleep fine now," I said. She smiled faintly, then sighed. I wanted to say sorry for everything. For believing her so fast. For treating you like the problem because you never yelled. I thought being quiet meant you didn't care. It meant I was done yelling at walls, I said. Her lips trembled. You were always the one we could lean on. We took advantage of that. Yeah, I said. You did. She reached across the table, her fingers trembling. Is there any way we can fix this? Not fix, I said. Just stop repeating it. She nodded slowly. That's fair. The waitress came by with a refill and called me Doc. The same as always? Yeah, I said. Mom looked out the window at Eli, who was waiting outside fiddling with his backpack. He looks happy, she said quietly. He is, I said, because I stopped making him stand in rooms where he had to prove he belonged. She didn't argue. For the first time, she just listened. Before leaving, she whispered, You were always different. Yeah, I said, and I stopped apologizing for it. That weekend, Eli had a chess match at school, a small tournament, nothing flashy. I watched from the back of the room as he made his moves, quick, confident, steady. When the referee announced his win, he didn't cheer. He just nodded, shook his opponent's hand, and walked over to me with that small grin he does when he's proud but doesn't want to show off. Good game, what I asked? Yeah, he said. I didn't even need to checkmate. He resigned. I smiled. Sometimes people do that when they finally see where the game's headed. He laughed, and for a moment, everything felt balanced again. That night, I scrolled past Manurva's apology one last time. The comments had slowed. The outrage had died down. The noise had faded into background chatter. It wasn't victory. It was silence again, the right kind. This wasn't revenge. It was correction. I don't chase validation anymore. I just keep my receipts. YouTube just dropped this new hype feature. If you're hooked on this story, smash that hype button. It tells YouTube, this video deserves to blow up.